I think that being a Black woman, I realize as I've grown older that I can't be preoccupied with trying to give a fuck about what people think about a Black woman. It's about how I feel about myself. It is about who I surround myself by and how they reinforce how I feel about myself and how they fit into my life. Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Madison channel. I am Madison, and today we are back with another installment of Black Girl Reacts. I'm super excited for this one. I know it's Pride Month, but of course, unfortunately, my true crime stories do not exactly line up with Pride Month, but my Black Girl reactions will line up with Pride Month. So, on today's episode of Black Girl Reacts, we're going to be reacting to a It's Always Sunny episode. It is the one where they are labeling the bathroom and the bar. And I think it's appropriate because, as you know, It's Always Sunny is my favorite show, and they touch on a lot of really great topics. So I'm really excited for that. Pertaining to Pride Month, I also have a true crime story on what happened to Marsha P. Johnson. And if you want to celebrate Pride Month, that would be the perfect video to watch because she's a goddess, she's a queen, she is the moment, of course. What else do I want to say? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Madison. This is the Madison channel, and I do true crime videos 2 times a month, and then I do a show reaction or a documentary reaction 2 times a month, depending. And I have a BA in sociology. I love talking about the sociological lens. So all of my videos are peering through the sociological lens. Doesn't matter whether it's a show reaction, documentary reaction, or true crime video. So get ready for that. If that sounds exciting to you, please press the subscription box down below. Hit the bell notification so you know when I post a new video. And of course, if you are returning, I love you. How are you? Hi, sweet baby. I'm so happy you are here. Welcome, welcome. And yeah. So, like I said before, I'm going to be reacting to episode 6, season 13, The Gang Solves a Bathroom Crisis. I believe that's the title. I'm not sure. But it's a really great episode. I haven't seen it in a while, so I'm really excited to watch it with you guys. And we're going to kind of discuss my opinions on labels and, labeling yourself. So I hope you're ready for that. So, just so you're aware of my point of view, I believe in labels, but I don't believe in labels. And I just want to explain that really quick so you can know the POV for which I'm watching this episode. Believe it or not, we're already labeled in society, whether that label reflects how you feel about yourself or not. That's just point blank, period. And I think that it's important to note that this influx of quote unquote new labels about gender identity, sexuality, and things like that really are terms that have come up that are meant to define things that have already existed, right? You know, people who are intersex, people who are androgynous, people who would rather not be defined by gender pronouns and want to go by they, them, trans people, cis people, all of these things are really just vocabulary used to define things that have already existed. Now, I think that to me, it's so important to just know and have a working knowledge of these terms as you go about your day-to-day life, because it's wrong to ever assume somebody is a certain way or somebody is another way. But I think it's also important to understand that even though you self-identify as whatever label, the world is cruel. And I'm saying that as a Black woman. The world is cruel. There are some people who are willing to work with you, learn your pronouns, learn your labels, and address you as such. And there are other people who will refuse to do so. And that's life. And I think in so many fractions and factions of woke culture, leftist culture, liberal culture, people fail to understand that not everybody is going to address you correctly. Not everybody is going to respect your decision to address yourself as something that is outside of the scope of normality in their mind. And though I think that's, a shitty position to position yourself as, that is life. I think we're all fighting for a better tomorrow where people are more aware and people want to abide by these labels that feel so fulfilling to so many of us. But I think it's important to know that you're not owed that. Society is a cruel place and it will treat you as such. And it's important to understand that. If you have decided to go by specific labels, and I believe wholeheartedly, the people in your life that are immediately closest to you, it'll be a litmus test to see whether or not they care about you or care about your feelings. Some people will abide by whatever identity you choose to go as, and other people will refuse to adapt. And I just want to stick there with that point really quickly. I think it's really important just in the sense that this is what people of color, BIPOC people have to go through all the time. Okay? This is one of those things where identity and how you choose to define yourself are one of those things that aren't immediately obvious. And I think that being a Black woman, I realize as I've grown older that I can't be preoccupied with trying to give a fuck about what people think about a Black woman. It's about how I feel about myself. It is about who I surround myself by and how they reinforce how I feel about myself and how they fit into my life. I know without a shadow of a doubt that there are people who will never, ever, ever respect me on the basis of my skin color. I know that. Do I dwell on it? Not really. Because at the end of the day, though it's wrong, though it's bigoted, though it is whatever, people are entitled to their own opinions, just like I'm entitled to mine. And I think what happens with woke culture, as these new terms get thrown around, as these new things get thrown around, people are in an Olympics competition with each other to be the most woke and to be the most informed. And I'm not shitting on people who choose to be informed. But what I'm saying is a lot of times that information is used as a slam dunk on other people who don't know such information. Instead of it just being something you hold dear and you use to pepper your life with, people use it as a bartering tool, as a litmus test, and people can be extremely judgmental of those who aren't necessarily aware or aren't necessarily comfortable or don't have any practice using certain terms. And in those situations, those people get canceled without being given grace, without being educated, without being allowed to make mistakes in that space. I think that's really important to remember, is to give people grace, especially with terminology that they may not be familiar with. To each their own. I'm not trying to preach anything to other people. I'm just saying my opinion on labels. But my opinion on labels is a very fluid opinion. I don't hold the same standards for the same people. I take into account their life experience and their exposure before I judge them for their knowledge or their lack thereof knowledge. I think this episode of It's Always Sunny is really important because it talks about the influx of new words and labels to define things that have always been. And it subverts concepts and it subverts stereotypes, and it does such a great job of that with, of course, a great sprinkle of irreverent humor within. But I think it's a really good episode. I think it's a really good episode for Pride Month because I think it's important for all of us to know and understand that people are going to judge you no matter what. It's a cold, dark world. It's a cruel world. And it's about how you understand that energy, receive that energy, and build your identity despite that energy. There are going to be people in this world who are flat out not going to like you, are going to judge you, or going to think you're lesser than them based on your identity or how you choose to identify. And those people are always going to exist, and they're always going to do this weaponized ignorance game, weaponized incompetence game when it comes to you trying to explain. I guess all I want to say is your labels are your labels for you. And it's important for those who are immediately touching your life to respect those things. But I also think it's important to remember that you're not entitled to respect by the world and by society, especially if you're a part of a marginalized community. We know how it is. It's important to demand respect, but it's also important to, for your own mental health, understand that there's going to be a population of people who will always, no matter what, not learn on purpose. So, without further ado, we are going to watch season 13, episode 6 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where I think the gang solves the bathroom crisis, if I'm not mistaken. It's a really funny episode. It's a really fun episode, and I'm really, really excited to watch it with you guys. And yeah. Also, do you love my hat? My grandma got it for me. Or it was my grandma's. I feel like strawberry shortcake. I said that in another video. But I truly, truly do. And I just love this hat. I just think it's fun and cute. Anyway.
All right. Well, that about does it, which means we are officially on Island Time.
Yeah, baby. Island time.
Oh, Frank, I'm so excited about this concert. Thank you for the tickets.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, yeah.
And those parrot head broads, they're wild.
I noticed that. They're nuts.
They are wild.
Yeah, we all do. Were you in the women's room?
Mm-hmm.
Well, don't do that. Don't use my bathroom.
Why not?
Because that's my bathroom, and you're a man.
Oh, no, well, no, as a gay man, I just feel more comfortable in the ladies' room.
Come on, not with the gay thing again. Like, look, it makes me uncomfortable that you're in there using my bathroom. How about that?
Look, the whole men's and women's bathroom thing is antiquated.
Maybe you're antiquated.
Maybe I'm
Get out! Get off me!
Settle
Get
down.
off me!
Settle down. Don't, come on, listen, we're not doing that this time, all right? This whole bathroom issue is a simple problem with a simple solution. So why don't we just sit here and let's just figure it out.
If I may go first, I'd like to go first.
Oh, are we doing a whole stand-up?
Yeah.
He's gonna
Now, guys, I believe that as a gay man, I should be able to use the women's bathroom because I feel more comfortable around women.
Okay, why?
Well, A, we both like dudes, and B, we both find women's bodies disgusting, so there's no hanky-panky.
Well, that tracks.
Yeah, sure. That
Yeah.
Done.
yeah.
I'm using the ladies' bathroom.
Max just solved it.
No. Okay. A, not all women like dudes. Lesbians, for example. And B, I find you disgusting. I don't want men pooping next to me.
Would you let a trans woman go in there?
Of course I would.
But not me.
No, not you, because you're a man. You're a gay man, but you're still a man.
I don't know why you're being such a bitch about this, Dee. I've been pooping next to you for months.
What are you talking about?
You've been in the stall next to me. I recognize you from those pink heels you have.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to pause here to say that already loving the episode as I am. I haven't seen this episode in a while, but I think it's just interesting when you see such ignorant people try to make a case in such a nuanced topic. As we all know, our country is going through a bit of a regression, and there are things like the Don't Say Gay bill and the bill affecting trans kids in the South. And the conversation around bathrooms has been a very big topic for, I don't know, probably close to, I don't know, maybe 7 years now. The conversation about gender neutral bathrooms and understanding that and how people feel uncomfortable with that and all of that. I think it's the assumption of what gender neutral bathrooms signify socially that have people feel uncomfortable. I think it's the assumption that if the two sexes are allowed to use the same bathroom, what could happen? And I think that's based in lots of, gender norms and gender talk and things that I just don't believe to be necessarily true or innate to any gender. If you're going to do things that are negative to the opposite gender, that speaks more to your characteristics and your humanhood, things like that. But I don't think it speaks necessarily for your gender. I, for example, went to a fairly progressive college. I went to the University of California, Santa Cruz. Go Slugs, of course. And in our dorms, we had gender neutral, not only gender neutral, like dorms in general, not dorms, but floors. And we also, on our floor, we voted to have gender neutral bathrooms. So when you first got to my dorm floor, the first day, we had a meeting with everybody and discussed how we would feel. There was 2 bathrooms on the floor. Should both bathrooms be gender neutral or should one be gendered, right? And people had strong opinions, and different floors voted for different things. My floor voted for all the bathrooms to be gender neutral. Now, these are the bathrooms that you would brush your teeth in, wash your face in, and shower in, period. And I remember my mom being kind of uncomfortable by the concept that I would be sharing and showering in a bathroom that other guys on my floor would be showering in. But I just thought it was the easiest thing. Thinking about gender when you have to just release yourself as a human person, I think is pointless. So I always am on the side of just making it easy and having multiple bathrooms instead of just one. So now we maximize our shower space, our bathroom space, our sink space by 2 because we had both the bathrooms being gender neutral. And the experience was amazing. It was totally fine. It wasn't weird. It wasn't weird to shower next to a man. It wasn't weird. Everyone respected each other. Everyone was kind to each other. Nobody was sketchy. And you understand it's a communal space and you deal with that how you want to deal with that. There are mutual rules that we all agreed by, that we all abided by. And I felt comfortable. I didn't feel creeped out or scared. Blase soise. Now I know that in our building, there was a situation on the floor below me of someone peeping on people. And I feel like, again, I don't think it's fair to equate that to any specific gender, but I think it speaks more about the individual human and their choice to violate someone's privacy. I find it interesting watching these people, as terrible, as hateful, as crazy as they are, discuss why they want the bathroom to be a certain way based on their very antiquated ideas about certain things. So Mac went up and he was like, I'm a gay man. Women and I both are attracted to the same gender, so I feel more comfortable with women. And then it was like, Dee came up and she was like, okay, but lesbians exist, so you can't just erase them from existing. But also, I personally, as an individual, don't want to poop next to you. And you start to see their selfish opinions show up. But anyway, we're going to get more into the episode.
Oh, God.
Well, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Damn it.
Nice. Okay, well, I knew we could solve it, guys. This is great. And you know
And
what?
then should we also change the signs on the doors to reflect that
Okay,
it's not a boys'
I
room
have
and a
to
girls'
stop
room
here
anymore?
because this whole bit is so hilarious.
No, we'll pop some new stuff.
Just with the fact that, like, this show walks a tight line, and we know that. I think that with comedy, it's important to walk a little bit of a tight line, especially if you're going to skew towards irreverent humor. And with Charlie's explanation, his explanation makes sense. He was socialized to feel comfortable going number 2 in a dress, dressed up as a woman as a child because he had a single mom. And so now he associates the comfort in going number 2 with being dressed a certain way, right? And now you put it into the ether and you have Dennis extrapolating meaning from his explanation, and it turns into Charlie identifies as a woman when he goes number 2. And I don't know if Charlie would necessarily say that, but he clearly likes to dress a specific way when he goes number 2 to feel the most comfortable. I think what we're seeing is a collapsing of the concept of these, labels. Bear with me. I listened to a podcast called New Rory and Mal. They were the co-hosts of Joe Budden, and then they broke up. And they were talking about the idea of trans people competing. And they were specifically talking about also the scandal of the trans woman who got 2 women pregnant in a woman's prison. And Mal, who's, skews more conservative-ish, like black male conservative, if that resonates with you as an explanation. And he was basically like, okay, so if New York State has a policy of accepting people who are transgender or identify as trans, who are pre-op, pre-transition, pre-hormone, into the prison of their choice into which they identify as, wouldn't that be a loophole for men to label themselves as identifying as women in order to not be put into an all-male prison? Now, again, he skews conservative, so where he went with that whole thing was kind of like, child. But I think that's the same question that's being asked in this whole idea. Like, okay, we can be an accepting place, and that's why I always skew towards just make it gender neutral. The conversation is a lot less complicated if you just make it gender neutral and just let it be. But people still want to identify or want to have this binary of gender. So what does that mean when there's a spectrum of genders that we recognize in our society? And what does that look like? And what are the parameters? And what are the characterizations? And when does that stop? And they're offering up really good conversation here, because it's like, okay, Dee had already said previously that if a trans woman used a women's bathroom, she wouldn't bat an eye. But now it's getting complicated with Charlie being used to or socialized to dress as a woman when he goes number 2. And would that be considered trans? Would that be considered Charlie identifying as a woman while he boops? So these kind of rigid ideas are still being broken down, but it's under the guise of still having a very binary system of the bathrooms. There's a men's restroom, there's a women's restroom. to me, like I said, I always skew gender neutral just in the sense that it's just like easier. Okay, get over the fact that you might poop next to someone of the opposite gender. It is what it is. And once you get over that, then you're free. Like, it's okay for the bathrooms to be gender neutral. Just let people be able to go where they want to go. And it just relieves a lot of the confusion that they're about to get into in this episode. Let's continue.
How about this? We'll call the bathrooms gender neutral.
That makes me uncomfortable because I'm not neutral about my gender.
So now you're uncomfortable. Okay.
Okay, we put one sign on each door. Both of them say gender fluid.
Right, because that implies like you're this,
I
you're
don't
that.
know.
You're that.
I don't like thinking about gender fluids. Like, just that. It's
This is
gross
such a
image
good
to me.
conversation. And it's a simple one because they are simple people and ignorant people. But I think there's a couple nuggets in here. So you have Frank talking about how he doesn't want to learn anything new. And there's all these confusing terms now, which is often what a lot of the older generation say about us, when in actuality, all of these things have always existed. We're just giving life and putting a name to it, having vocabulary behind it, and validating its existence and its right to exist. But a lot of older generations write it off as us being overly sensitive or overly woke or PC. And it's like, no, we are adding validity to different experiences that have always existed throughout history and throughout time by allowing them vocabulary to identify themselves as in this generation. Now, here's a litmus test. Like I said, Frank isn't the most like woke person. You know, he's probably the least. He's a terrible person, and he's also old as shit in this show and represents a certain demographic of people who are very set in their ways. And I think that this is an important lesson for a lot of people where it's like, you have to understand that no matter how you identify, you have to feel validated and strong within that identification only through yourself. If it makes you feel strong, if it makes you feel better, it is what it is. But you cannot expect this crazy world, this psycho world, this bigoted world around us to flip the script and open its arms to you if you don't identify within the norm. Period. You can't just expect that. I think we're slowly changing, and I am happy about that. But I think it's important to know that a lot of the value is, do you feel seen? Do you feel validated in your experience? Do you feel comfortable with these pronouns, with these identifiers, and these characteristics? And if not, then it's a self thing. It's a self-reflection thing to find what identifies you, what connects you to you feeling the most safe and the most whole and the most seen. But you can't sit here and get your validation from the world around you changing for your benefit. You can't think so arrogantly. Because just like you have an asshole and an opinion, another person has an asshole and opinion who differs from you greatly. And it's important to know that it's okay for everyone to be entitled to their opinion. Like I said at the top, I'm a black woman. I know there's people that are going to hate me just based on the fact of the color of my skin. Does that stop my day? No. Does that make me feel any less validated as being black? No. Do I know that that exists? Yes. Do I harp up on that? No. Because the people in my life, the people that I've chosen to share a life with, to share experiences with, all see me as how I see myself. You know what I mean? So, yes, change will happen slowly but surely, but people are resistant to change, and you can't put your self-worth and pin it on people changing their concept of things that they just hold true and dear. Like, unfortunately, gender norms. Let's continue.
I have an idea.
I think what that whole sign thing was meant to represent in terms of the context of the show about bringing religion into it and how it's just overly complicated kind of reflects how I feel about the label thing. I think at the end of the day, the label thing is for you mostly. it's for you and however you want to express that. If that changes how you appear in public life, fine. If that makes you more comfortable when you socialize, fine. If that's just how you feel the most comfortable being addressed as, fine. All of those things are fine. But like I said, this world doesn't owe you anything, and you have to expect that people are not going to respect how you want to be treated and how you want to be labeled, especially when people feel like there's an onslaught of values and labels and information being placed on them, and if they don't immediately understand what it means, they're labeled or canceled as a terrible person. I think what that sign was supposed to represent is how convoluted a lot of these labels can get, when at the end of the day, it's about you, yourself, and how you feel and how you want to show up in this world. And again, there are people who are going to fall in line and respect that, and there are people who are not. And those are the people you should cut out of your life. Hint, hint. But I think that, context is everything, and it'll take time for everyone, and there's a learning curve to all of this. So it's important to be sensitive to that and not just blindly expect everyone to know how to talk to you. And in some cases, in overt bigotry, obviously, when people are trying to mess with you and your identity by misgendering you or misaddressing you, of course, that's a problem. But I think that there's a difference between that and there's a difference between someone who just genuinely doesn't know and made an honest mistake. And it's up to you to measure what kind of effort you want to put into that. For example, and this is just me, obviously, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Sound off down below. I have short hair and I'm a Black woman. And I've been mistaken several times for being a man, which I don't understand because I have huge boobs and definitely don't present as a man, nor do I identify as such. But people see the short hair and they're just like, man. And so I've been addressed as such. And personally speaking, it's just been kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I know you just glanced at me. You don't owe me anything. You're a stranger on the street. I'm not going to sit here and argue back and forth about how womanly I am. I don't have the time nor the patience. But on the flip side, which I think is so funny, my boyfriend, who has very, very long hair, very, very long hair, he's Filipino. Before he had facial hair, he'd always be mistaken as a girl in the boys' bathroom at our college. And similarly, he was just like, whatever. Like, he understood that he had long hair and presented in a certain type of way that made people double take in the men's restroom. But it wasn't something that made him feel emasculated, or it wasn't something that made him feel less than or made him, angry. It was something where he is like, I can get that. You're glancing at me. I'm in the bathroom. You're not sure. Blase squaze. So I say all that to say it's about you. It's about you feeling comfortable, and it's important about checking in with your comfortability. But know that this world doesn't revolve around you, and people will always place politics and opinions attached to decisions that go against the status quo. Period.
That Chinese food, it wants out.
Yeah.
Whoa. Why aren't you using the good bathroom?
Well, 'cause I'm about to do some real damage. I don't want to do it in the good bathroom.
Well, I'm uncomfortable with that.
So close.
We were so close.
Well, because I just don't want to share my bathroom with a bunch of broads.
What happened, Frank? We decided we were all cool with
We
it.
were fine.
I didn't know she was going to smash in there. A woman is not a lady when she's dumping up a John.
We're arguing about racism or whether or not ghouls exist or something.
They do, though.
No, they don't.
No, they do.
You've never seen them.
Because I have seen them.
Okay. Stop! I'm a bear! Take it easy, mate! I'm a bear! Get up! Stop! We're off topic. This is not Buffett. We're not being Barry Buffett
No,
right
it's
now.
not
We're not
Buffett
being
at
Barry
all.
Buffett. People would be a little less inclined to cheat, and they wouldn't feel ashamed if they had a little bit more privacy. Like, what if the partitions went all the way down to the ground? Yeah? And you created sort of a dome of privacy.
So you're closed in.
You're closed in.
You know what you could do? You could add a scented candle in there for the smells.
Right.
Some noise to cover the sounds.
Yes.
Loud noise, like screaming.
Or just music.
Let's do music. Guys, we're making progress. This is great. I tell you what.
And here they go, getting carried away in their own mess. But again, that's such... Like, because you had Dee talking about the right to choose, and you have Frank talking about the right to bear arms within this conversation. And I think it points to how complex it is to have this conversation with people who fundamentally don't agree with you. And you fundamentally have just different value systems and what you view as important. And it's just like, you know, like the fact that Frank has loaded Glock with him on the bathroom in order to feel comfortable, and then Charlie has to dress as a woman to feel comfortable, and then everyone else feels comfortable with the screams. It's like, if you're doing everything to make everybody feel the most comfortable, do you see how absurd it gets? This could have ended at gender neutral, point blank, period, and then Charlie needing to clean up both bathrooms equally. But it got so much more complex because it was less about the function of the room and what makes it the most convenient for most people, and more about individual needs for these rooms to reflect a specific part of their identities and their characteristics, and how addressing those things becomes so much more absurd.
Frank just gave me a good idea.
Okay.
Reparations. Look, minorities have been treated like shit in this country for so long, right? So I say we give them the good bathroom. You know? I mean, for years and years they've been oppressed. The least we can give them is, you know, a nice place to piss and shit, right? And we got to put up a sign so that they know their place.
Now, are you proposing that we put a sign on one of the bathrooms that says minorities only?
What does the other sign say?
No minorities allowed.
That's
You
crazy.
hear
bad.
where you
You
run
hear
into trouble there, right?
The rules may have worked in medieval times, but we live in a civil society now. And societies are judged on how they treat their most vulnerable. See, we have to give voices to those who have no voice.
He's right.
Shut up, Dee, I'm talking! Women are always... God damn it. Look,
Philly. It says here that this city is 54% women and 68% Christian.
Oh.
Which means that Mac and D are in the majority. That
Wait.
52% are black, which means white men like me and Dennis are in the minority.
Uh-oh, we're minorities, which means that by your own argument, we actually should get the good bathroom.
Okay.
wait. I'm gay. So
You see how
that's
this
the-
stuff backfires? There's several things in the past, things that I forgot to talk about. One, the fact that Max points with trying to be ultimately progressive with the minority-only bathroom and no minorities allowed bathroom ended up being very Republican. There is a YouTube channel that my friend Mayan showed my sister and I one day called Channel 5, and they went to a protest where it was anti-vax. And there was an amalgamation of a lot of people, mostly conservative, as you may agree or obviously assume, but there was a lot of liberals there too. And I think that we forget that at a point, when you're running away from each other, you're going to meet somewhere in the middle, and there are certain topics where you meet. And though maybe your motivations are different for why these things should be real, it leads to the same result. So Mac's idea of the minorities and no minorities allowed bathroom was Jim Crow, essentially. But in his progressive gay mind, it was to lift up minorities instead of put them down, which I think is interesting. And then in this whole exchange, it's like talking about demographics and demographic shifts and how things are shifting in general, and how the word minority is always a moving target because it goes with percentage-wise. It's not necessarily attached to race or gender or religion or creed or sexuality. It just moves with the percentage and the proportion. So again, it backfired on Mac and D again.
In there, we're not so different. In there, we're all the same.
In there, we're all just disgusting, vulnerable, ashamed.
A bunch of filthy animals, dumping in a shithouse.
It's the one common thing amongst a king and a pauper.
We're all the same in there. And why don't we just focus on treating other people the way that we want to be treated?
D. We were just talking.
Yeah,
and you
shut
just
the fuck
barged
up.
Right in,
Shut the
interrupting.
fuck
We're
up.
talking nonsense.
It was like so pretentious.
Yeah.
Something very pretentious
talking
about it.
to-
All right. I feel like we're right
We were in the middle of the thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that'll do it.
There we go.
Yeah, it's perfectly clear.
We did it.
Guys, if we leave right now, we can still make the concert.
Let's do it.
Buffett!
That was season 13, episode 6 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. A wonderful episode. I love this episode. But I think the ending said a lot. I think what it was pointing towards is the fact that we always get distracted and caught up by things that don't matter. The war against the bathroom and whether it should be gendered or non-gendered ultimately doesn't matter because it's about the functionality of the room. So I think that naming it Animal Shithouse is as gender neutral for them as it gets and as comfortable for them as it gets. And I love the show. They do such a great job. But without further ado, happy Pride Month, y'all. I hope you enjoyed me breaking this episode down. If you have other opinions about what I was saying, please leave them down below in the description. Not in the description, leave a comment. My name is Madison, and this is the Madison channel. Thank you for returning, or thank you for visiting for the first time. I'm really happy to have you here. If you like the video, like and subscribe to the channel. I have a notification bell. Click that so you know when I post. And if you're returning, thank you for being here again. Thank you for supporting me, of course. And I hope to see you in the next one. Leave a comment. Discuss down below how you feel about this particular episode. But without further ado, all I have to say is Black Lives Matter and Free Palestine until it's backwards.